Capital budget briefly, which is we went rather fast past what appears to be a £239 million underspend on the capital budget for the year, full year forecast. That's £250 million. And at the first board meeting I attended, I asked the question of how come everything is on track and we see these marvellous pictures of everything happening and yet we're underspending our budget. And I note that we now have a 15-page supplement called Cost and Schedule Variance Analysis. I'm not much the wiser because it's at such a level of detail. I would like to know, if there's a variance, is it to do with underspend, timing, and if it's timing, which thing, just a simple statement of which things are slow, and is it surface, is it subsurface, what exactly is it that's leading to the, it's kind of the 5-bullet point version, not the 15-page project-by-project version, and it should reconcile back to the 239 million so we can all on the board understand exactly what is happening. We seem to be systematically underspending the non-Crossrail capital budget.
Inevitably, it's a mix of many different things. So some of it is, as I said, payments that were made in 12-13 that at the time we set the budget for 13-14 we hadn't anticipated being made. Some of it is release of contingency, so there's a saving on the risk budget on the Victoria Line upgrade, which wasn't required. But the vast majority, and some of it is reclassification of costs between capital and operating. The vast majority of it is rephasing, is expenditure on projects that we had anticipated to spend in 13-14, but will now be spent in 14-15 and subsequent years, which, as you say, very largely doesn't result in a change to the delivery dates for those projects. It's essentially being optimistic in the budgeting rather than the sort of delivery phase of those projects, and that is it's across the board. So there are projects in rail and underground, there are projects in surface. It's not in one particular area. It's spread across a large number of small underspends across projects, which is why it's quite hard, unless you get into the project-by-project basis, to give any kind of...
Can I just ask that we bucketise those and we actually just see a summary that's not 15 pages, but that's what you've just said?
So there is in the operational financial report, there is a page and a half that does it, and the main points are page 23, 24 describes the breakdown of the capital expenditure.
Which page numbers?
23 and 24.
I think we can. I certainly would accept we can do more to make the text on those pages clearer, because it does read like a long list of changes.
And we have summarised it more briefly in the executive summary on page 6. But can we take away the point? We'll put it into big buckets that explain the total variance more accessibly.
It needs to add to 239.
Well,
which I'm not sure
239, to be clear, you're taking the underspends and not taking the sales of property. So we've done the 230, which is that explains the 230. The 9 million difference is the sales of property being slightly below. But yes, that's fine. It is the same number we're reconciling to. So it's all explained in detail on 23 and 24 and summarised in the executive summary on page 5 and 6. But we can put it into the big buckets you're describing next time in more sort of headline terms, if that's helpful. I'll take the point it would be.
And just have a list of every junction that you think has inadequate pedestrian time. We'll look at them all, and we'll get somebody who does this full time to explain to you how we do that. We cannot have the allegation that we have junctions which are insufficiently timed for pedestrians without immediately addressing that issue, because that is in fact a suggestion that we're not managing the road network as safely as we can. So we'll do that as a matter of great expediency.
Very sharp. Okay, well, Michael, do you see all those pages seem to me to have quite a lot of detail on them about the reasons for the underspend. I mean, I think the question you're asking is there a sort of systemic problem that we're not getting the dosh out of the door? Is what you're asking, isn't it?
Exactly. I mean, if we're not, well, we're either saving lots of money, which is great because we're
saving money
underspending,
here and there.
and then the question is, if we break it down into buckets, we've got 239 full year, 217 up till now. To what extent have we saved, and to what extent have we shifted something to a later year, which will raise a question about the budgeting process? We can't systematically underspend our capital and deliver all projects on time. You'd have to assume. So I'm just trying to understand where we are, and there's lots of detail, but it's hard to get the overview.
Right.
Can I just... that question on the mix of saving and rephasing is dealt with in the investment programme report. It's new information that's been brought in this time because Michael actually raised this question previously, and we've now brought it into the public part of the board papers for the first time this quarter. So in the next item, in the investment programme report, on pages 71 to 73, it's got the breakdown for the underground and for surface of the type of underspend, which I think is the last point Michael was just making.
Okay,
Those are only year to date.
Just picking up that last debate, Chairman. I mean, it is extremely difficult to actually do what Michael is requesting, and to a degree, all it should be doing is raising a flag to management to be confident that their RAG status on programme is actually correct. But at the end of the day, the devil is going to be in the detail in understanding these underspends, and quite likely, occasionally it will be because the work's behind it, will be rephasing, it will be budgeting. But you can really only understand it project by project. Yeah. If you've got a whole lot of it, then you'd simply say, well, are we confident that our programming assessments are correct? And that's the risk. And that is the risk. But that is something. I mean, it actually acts simply as if you like, a guide or a warning to management to make sure that the RAG status is correct.